All right. I got another question here. The question is just plyometrics versus strength training, and uh, I'll f- I'll follow up with the text here. It says, "Hi, does anyone here train plyometrics and find that it's helpful for their jujitsu? I'm specifically looking at upper body plyos as I snapped my ACL a few months back and will have surgery soon. I've not been able to train jujitsu and I don't want to lose all my fitness. So I've been hitting the gym 5 to 6 times a week and I'm seeing decent gains. However, I don't want to go back to jits 1 year later, slow and bulky. So I was thinking of doing upper body plyo exercises once a week to try to retain some fast twitch muscle fibers. Good idea, or just stick with the weight training."
Slow and bulky annoys me.
Yeah.
That term. Okay, sorry. Continue.
Yeah, no, me too. Because building muscle doesn't make you slow and bulky.
That doesn't happen. Yeah.
I've been lifting anywhere between 2 and 4 times a week on average since I was like 14 years old. And I am a regular dude. I don't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think that's one thing that like a lot of people.
What makes somebody look like Arnold Schwarzenegger besides steroids?
Steroids.
Right.
I don't think you can.
What about natural bodybuilders though? There's something different they're doing in training that makes them bulky and unable to like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a time under tension thing. So like those are guys who are spending hours in the gym. That's the job,
And
right?
they're like targeting like they're working on their bicep. For
exactly. Like the amount of time spent on just each individual piece is way more than any other athlete should, in my opinion. If you want to be a bodybuilder, that's fine. Then bodybuild. But if you, as I've said multiple times, if you train to look like a statue, you will move like one. And if you do any other sport, maybe outside of powerlifting, that requires you to be dynamic in a lot of ways, jiu-jitsu is one of them, I think that would be a bad idea. But as far as this person's question, plyometrics versus strength training, I don't think it's plyometrics versus strength training. I think it's plyometrics and strength training. I think plyometrics should, I'm actually editing a post on this right now, is like what's called the concurrent training model, like training all of these things all the time so that none of them get detrained. So that's the first thing. It's plyometrics and not plyometrics versus strength training. And then he says, I'm specifically looking at upper body plyos as I snapped my ACL a few months back and will have surgery soon. Upper body plyos are just medicine ball throws. And you could do other ones too. You do like, explosive push-ups or I'm trying to think of another upper body plyo that's not a push. Those ones are the most common ones. In any case, most of this is just medicine ball throws, tosses, slams. Those would be considered like upper body plyos. And so the key there is to pick a weight that's heavy enough you have to work to move it, but light enough that you can move it really fast. And so the answer there is yes, you should absolutely be doing upper body plyos, but not because you snapped your ACL a few months back. You should be doing them no matter what. And then he says, I've been hitting the gym 5 to 6 times a week. I'm seeing decent gains. Honestly, I think you could get, if you structure this right, you could get the same, if not better gains going 2 or 3 times a week. I don't want to go back to jits 1 year later, slow and bulky. We talked about why that's not really a thing. So thinking about doing upper body plyo exercises once per week. I think you should do them every time. Honestly, we have upper body plyos go in all of our programs on every day that people are in.
They're like they feel like pretty low, like I mean they're high impact. They feel like low impact in a weird way, even though they're fast and explosive. But you don't get like all sore and like fucked up from.
Correct.
Yeah.
And part of that's because there's no eccentric component to them. Like we're typically no eccentric component to them. With lower body plyos, there is an eccentric component, and so they can.
Oh, I get sore. Yeah, from like jump squats. Or something, right?
Yeah.
That would be
because you're having to absorb the force as you hit the ground. You're having to absorb the force. Right. Now, if you're just doing medicine ball throws, there's no absorbing the medicine ball before you throw it, unless a coach or somebody else throws it to you, which does play a role in some of our stuff. But even then, you still don't do enough volume for you to be sore from upper body plyos, I don't think. Right. So, I mean, to answer your question, yes, you should add upper body plyos. And I would argue lower body plyos on your non-snapped ACL, leg for what's called the crossover principle, and that means if you injure a limb, you can still train the other limb, and then your injured limb will get better. It won't be perfect. It won't be exactly the same as your non-injured limb, but it will help. And the example that I always give is we had a hockey player come train with us a couple summers ago. He had a bone bruise on his femur, so he couldn't put any weight on his knee or on his leg rather for several months. And we just did everything on his left leg. And once he was cleared to start doing stuff on his right leg, we started doing a lot of the same like single leg lifts, things that we had been doing on the left side. And maybe for a couple weeks, he kind of lagged behind, but very quickly caught up. And it was as if he never missed a beat, maybe a month in. So in addition to adding plyometrics to your program, should your ACL snap, you should also add lower body plyos. Just do them on the good side. Obviously, be careful. If you have no ACL and if you were to put weight on that leg and you would collapse, plyos might not be the best idea, because if you trip and fall, you're inevitably going to catch yourself. And so use your discretion. But I would say if you are able to walk around and you don't feel excruciating pain with every single step, then you could probably go for it on the healthy leg, as long as you're taking the necessary precautions.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to point out. Like my AC joints are injured, and like when I go to do my workouts, there's still something to be said for doing what you can do.
Yeah, what you can do.
Like, yeah. So if that means not working out both legs, like you can still work out one leg, and you're probably not going to turn into like a weird minotaur. What's like some weird like deep? I don't know. Like
I know
just one giant leg. It's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, you're not gonna have like one oversized leg and one really small leg.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's because like in that crossover effect, when your body, like say you do something on your left leg but your right leg's injured, your body diverts resources to the stressed leg, and in this case the left leg, the healthy leg, right? Because if you did like squats and deadlifts and stuff on one leg there, it will, because of the crossover principle, will send resources to the other leg, and that's why you don't end up with like one way bigger than the other. It's when if you were to completely stop moving, like say you put like your leg in a cast and you didn't do anything, and then you couldn't do anything on the left, then the right leg starts to atrophy.
Yeah,
there
you get atrophy. Yeah, that's different. Yeah,
exactly. So that's a little bit different. But they're like, I can think of an example. Eric Cressy is like the baseball guy, and he's somebody that I follow really closely. Like I think his training philosophy is legit, and I mean he works with like all kinds of Major League Baseball players, and he had a lower body injury. I don't know, last year, 2 years ago. I can't remember when it was, but there was a post of him in a boot, sitting there, rowing, doing all the things that he should have been doing other stuff on his other leg, knowing what he knows about, how the body works, and it could do a world of good. So I would say go for it. Add the plyos, upper body plyos, if you can. Add lower body plyos on the other side.
Very nice.
We're at 30 minutes. Do you want to do? You have one more? Yeah, do a quick one.
Okay. Real quick, shout out to Rare Bird. They're not sponsoring this. I don't have any sponsors. But actually, I bought this myself. Actually, they're sending me a free bag. I don't know if I can say that. This is a type of coffee that they're calling PX coffee. What that actually is, PX is a metabolite of caffeine, so there's no caffeine in this coffee. The problem with caffeine usually is that for some people, after you drink a lot of caffeine, you get anxiety or jitters, and it's got a really long half-life, so even if you drink coffee like before noon, a lot of it can still be in your system by bedtime at like 10 p.m. or whatever, so it might still affect your sleep. Paraxanthine, the PX in PX coffee, is a metabolite of caffeine that has a much shorter half-life. And studies show that there's less, what is the word? Less anxious. It makes you less anxious in subjects that they tested it on. And anyway, I've been trying it out, in order to make sure that I don't affect my sleep. Testing it out currently using my Whoop data. Whoop, sponsor me. Damn. Waterloo Whoop. iPhone, Apple, sponsor me. No, but Rarebird's good.
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
if you're into that.
Josh asked me before this. He was like, "Do you care if I give a shout out to Rarebird?" And then he shout out Rarebird, Waterloo, Whoop, and Apple, all in under 30 seconds. I'm impressed.
The company that owns my apartments are pretty good too. Dear Don West, shout out. Maybe I shouldn't say where I live on YouTube.
Oh,
Anyway,
shit.
okay, so last question. Shout out IBJJF. Sponsor me,
Josh.
IBJJF.
Sponsor Josh.
I'm sponsoring myself. I'm sponsoring IBJJF. Jesus Christ. Yeah. I'm one of their biggest sponsors.
Oh shit.
This one's just entitled IBJJF 2024 rule update, so it's not actually a question, but it's talking about the rule update. So we did talk with Vitor Pascual. He is a black belt, your current coach, and also a referee in the IBJJF, and he refs at all the local tournaments. That episode is on our YouTube channel.
Yep.
Very good episode with a very knowledgeable referee if you do want to go check that one out. We touched on some of the rule updates in that episode, but not all of them.
Yep.
And I just wanted to run through the list very quickly.
Let's do it.
This is posted on Reddit, but also posted here on Flow Grappling. And of course, you can find these updates through IBJJF. So a couple interesting rules. The athletes in 50-50 with a lapel or belt grip have 20 seconds to pursue progression before being penalized for passivity. So this one's another one of those things about preventing boring matches if you're in 50-50 with a lapel or belt grip. All right, that's okay, cool. Next one. I thought this was going to be for all athletes. I need to double check this in the actual rule book, but there's that new rule, and the Flow Grappling website here is saying athletes in brown and black belt divisions can now apply a straight ankle lock turning in either direction.
Okay. Yep.
I thought this was going to be for all athletes. I need to actually read the rule book, but if I really hope it is because I only
Josh has a propensity for
ankle locks.
ankle locks.
Yeah. But actually, no, that was I've seen a lot of people get caught by that rule. It's like if I have a straight ankle lock, so that's the opponent's right leg in under my left armpit, and if I were to initiate a turn towards my right, that would cause their knee to turn inwards.
Right.
Which that effectively does the same thing to their knee as if I was reaping their leg.
Correct.
So like if I threw my left leg now over their leg, that would also cause a similar type of tension where their knee turns inwards, and that's essentially reaping.
Right.
You can reap from 50-50 too if you didn't know. Penny got disqualified for that in Lisbon.
Okay.
He was in 50-50 with his opponent and turned in such a way where it also caused his opponent's knee to turn inwards in a reaping fashion.
Okay. And he had the foot locked up.
Yeah, because they both had each other's feet, and Penny initiated a turn from 50-50 though. So I think a lot of people don't quite understand why the reaping rule exists, and it's primarily because of any tension that you put on your opponent's leg that turns their knee inwards while also keeping their foot in one position is causing their knee to turn in a way that's like
right.
Their foot is locked in place and their knee is turning inwards, and you just break their knee, right? Whereas if your opponent's knee can turn outwards, that's actually how you that's a way to protect yourself as you're being like swept or something, right? As if your knees can turn outwards, you can take that force. Whereas if there's any of that inwards rotation, but the rule book actually explicitly states that they'll also define it as reaping if your outside leg crosses the center line. And that's why people start to get confused. They're like, why is it that? Well, because usually when your outside leg crosses the center line, it forces the inwards turn of the knee. But anyway, I don't want to speak. I'm not a ref. I don't want to speak. I'm not a ref. I don't want to speak for refs or on behalf. But these are just these are how I've seen these calls be made. This is important. If your hair, dye, or makeup stains an opponent's gi, you may be disqualified.
I think that one was made specifically for Josh.
Yeah.
It's all the hair dye.
I know. An athlete who's promoted to a belt but does not yet meet the age requirements is allowed to continue competing at their previous rank. So I think I know somebody like this who he's a teenager and was promoted to purple belt.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually from. I don't want to get the details wrong, so I'm not going to say his name, but he competes out of a gym in Miami, and he like kills it in like the adult black belt expert divisions and stuff at like all these local tournaments and ADCC and all this kind of stuff. Shout out, you know exactly who you are. And I think when I last met him, he had either been just promoted to a purple belt or something, but he's a teenager, so he has to compete at blue belt and IBJJF. Because I don't think you can be a purple belt if you're.
Is it 17 or 18 for purple?
I'm not sure. I don't know to double check, but
it's been 17 years since I've been 17, so it just doesn't concern me.
Yeah,
but I could see why.
Yeah,
that would be troublesome for.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know the exact cases here now and exactly what this rule is covering, but this is good to know for you teens out there.
In the event that we can go back in time.
Yeah.
Knowing what we know now.
Yeah.
At 17 years old.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe this is one for parents.
Yeah.
Or what the coaches should know. Anyway, okay. All right, next one. This one, I've actually seen this. I've seen this in the IBJJF at Nogi Pans last year. This one's going to be controversial. An athlete must compete in the division that aligns with their sex assigned at birth. So they've now cemented that as a rule. There was actually a argument in the stands at Nogi Pans because there was a competitor who was, I believe, assigned male at birth, competing in. I was watching all the matches too, and people started fighting in the audience. They were competing in the women's division and just slaughtering all the women.
Okay.
They were clearly like stronger, and so obviously one side of that argument in the stands was like, "Oh, you should not be competing in in this division." The other side was like, "Oh, well, of course, let people, if they believe that's their identity, then they should be able to compete." So there's two sides of that argument, but now IBJJF has drawn a clear line for what that rule is going to be, regardless of how people feel about that issue. So that one's there. And the last one, if an athlete is disqualified after their semifinal, but before the final has taken place, their opponent will now advance in the bracket instead. It's disqualified after their semifinal.
After the semifinal, is that for like?
But before the final has taken place.
Is this like if they leave the mat before they raise the hand thing, or if they, I don't know, why would they get DQ'd after?
Maybe a no-show for the final. We'll need to look into that one more.
I have no idea.
We don't need to theorize here. I feel like it might be. Oh, one thing that is coming up for PANS, which is interesting. It's not a rules update, I don't think, but this got brought up on my Instagram comment section. Was PANS is saying, because I think ahead of time for this PANS coming up in a couple weeks. I think black belts can sign up for open class ahead of time.
Okay.
And if they sign up for open class and don't show up for open class and get DQ'd for no show in open class, they'll also be DQ'd from their division.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. So I think they're trying to prevent people from
signing up and not showing.
Yeah. So
because it's like kind of a pain on the organizers.
It's a pain on everybody.
Yeah.
Because
the competitors.
The way that it works for the organizers is that they have to wait, I think, 15 or 20 minutes. There's some amount of time that they have to wait past the original show time.
Right.
In order to officially DQ them. So then everybody's just sitting there waiting. And usually a lot of the times even some of the brackets will run ahead of time anyway.
Yep.
Right. So now everybody's just stuck there waiting. So
heard.
Yeah. You want to close it out?
Cool. Thanks for listening to another episode, everyone. If you enjoy this podcast, like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us at Thanks for the Roll on Instagram and TikTok. Give us 5 stars and write us a review wherever you listen. And share this episode with someone you think would benefit from it. See you next time. Thanks for the roll.
Thanks for the roll.